So, The Exorcist. I'm not sure how I'm not dead, but this is actually quite comfortable. Hey everybody, welcome back to Drinks in a Movie. Chris Hamker back with you, and today we'll be starting a new segment called Drunk Recollections. And what Drunk Recollections is that I'll be reviewing older movies that have been out for years and years, that sometimes maybe will pertain to a movie coming up, or just like for this instance, it's October, it's Halloween, so I'm going to do the scariest movie of all time, The Exorcist. So this is going to be like an analysis / review, so spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, I know it's like 40 years old, so I really shouldn't have to do this, but there will be a lot of stuff about this. I'm going to go through the entire movie. Also, it's not quite safe for work because I'll be showing clips, and there's some cursing, some awful things that happen. And if you're a little squeamish, you might just be warned. I'm going to show some stuff from The Exorcist. Now, The Exorcist, it was directed by William Friedkin and written from his book, from William Peter Blatty's book, and it was written by him as well, and it stars Ellen Bernstein, Linda Blair, Jason Miller, Max von Sydow. Now, like I said, this movie is arguably one of the scariest movies ever made, if not the scariest movie ever made. And I watched it last week in preparation for this. And as an adult male, it still gets me. I mean, it really does. And I think it still gets me is because this is not only a good scary movie, it's a good movie in general. The director takes time with his scenes, letting you get to know the characters from the start. And the scenes are really good. They even before like all the Judd Apatow stuff and all the movies where it seemed like it's a lot of improvisation, this movie does that. The beginning scenes between Reagan and her mom are very natural, and they flowed really naturally, almost as if they were improvising the scene, making it up on the spot. And that is not easy to do well, and I think this movie does it brilliantly. So for this movie to work on just a general basis, you'd have to believe in some sort of religious being or some sort of higher power, I think. And if you believe in that, then you believe in the opposite. You believe in evil, good versus evil. And so why I think this movie stands the test of time and is still, again, considered one of the scariest movies of all time is you have that aspect, and large amount of the population believes in this stuff, and you have the loss of innocence. And what I mean by that is that all this stuff is happening to a little girl around 12 years old, and to see this little girl go from this sweet and innocent person to this awful transformation into, when the demon starts taking her over and making her do and say things that are truly despicable, you feel that much more for it. It makes the audience very uneasy and very uncomfortable. I mean, if these things were happening to an adult, it wouldn't be half the experience that this was. I mean, the things they have Linda Blair doing and saying are just downright disgusting. I mean, even for an adult, much less a child of her age. For example,
you know what she did? Your canting daughter?
Spirit, show it up your ass.
In the name of our Lord,
fuck him.
Be gone
Fuck him, Garrus.
from this creature of God.
holy shit! I mean, can you believe that they got away with this back in 1973? This would never be made nowadays. I mean, nobody would let a child do this stuff that they had Linda Blair doing in this movie. I mean, saying and doing these things is just astounding to me, but it is really effective, right or wrong, whether you agree with it or not. It really puts this movie on a higher level than most things. You see kids in movies nowadays that aren't doing anywhere near the stuff that Linda Blair did in The Exorcist. Now, I get that a lot of these scenes had like a stunt double for Linda Blair, and you know, later on they added in ADR of the demon saying certain things that maybe Linda Blair didn't say or mouth, but still, I mean, she did a lot of this stuff, and it really gets you to the core. Now, there are also little moments in this movie that are really effective in scaring the audience, where in the first act, where Reagan's slowly being taken over by this demon, occasionally you'll see the demon's face pop up in like corners, or as the characters are passing by, and you'll see it just pop up briefly, and it's very strange and unsettling, and it almost culminates in this really brilliant yet simple little gag when Reagan's mother, played by Ellen Bernstein, is up in the attic. You know, she hears something, of course, and goes up in the attic, and she's searching around, and she has a little candle holder, and she has a candle, and she's walking around, she's looking at things, and the candle's flame just explodes out into this foot-long flame, and it's a great scare, and it looks like it even scares Ellen Bernstein a bit. I don't think she was expecting the flame to go that high, but it's a really effective job, and it's one of my favorite scenes because it's very quiet, there's no music, and that bit happens, and it cuts right away, and it's one of my favorite. Okay, so another thing I want to mention is that Max von Sydow, who plays the priest that ends up coming in at the end and helping with the exorcism, along with Father Karras, looks exactly the same as he does. This was almost over 40 years ago. He looks exactly the same he does when he was in Star Wars: The Force Awakens a year ago, and I don't know how he does it. I'm not sure if he made a deal with the devil to do this, but he looks exactly the same, and I just love Max von Sydow. And Jason Miller, who plays Father Karras, is also very wonderful in this film. I mean, I haven't seen him in too much after this, but he just seems so real, and the little interactions between he and Reagan's mother, played by Ellen Bernstein, are just so matter-of-factly. Again, it seemed like it was improvised, and I really like this about this movie. Well, just like this scene here.
I can't do it. I need evidence that the church would accept as signs of possession.
Like what?
Like her speaking in a language she's never known or studied.
What else?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I thought you were supposed to be an expert.
There are no experts. You probably know as much about possession as most priests. Look, your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself. Now, if you've seen as many psychotics as I have, you'd realize that's the same thing as saying you're Napoleon Bonaparte. You asked me what I think is best for your daughter. 6 months under observation in the best hospital you can find.
You showed me Reagan's double. Same face, same voice, everything. And I'd know it wasn't Reagan. I'd know in my gut. I'm telling you that thing upstairs isn't my daughter. Now, I want you to tell me that you know for a fact that there's nothing wrong with my daughter except in her mind. You tell me you know for a fact that an exorcism wouldn't do any good. You tell me that!
So the next thing I want to talk about is William Friedkin's directing. He was wonderful in this. The way he framed shots, the way he took his time with scenes, and also the way that there's a lot of times in the movie where there's a really scary and intense moment, but he doesn't linger on it. He ends up, cutting fairly quickly after the scary moment, and then goes to something that's not very scary, and it kind of leaves you, at a bit of unease, leaves the audience very uneasy. Not knowing when the next bit is going to come, or when you're going to be then totally, jarred into the next scene of calmness, and so you get the scare, and then you're totally calm again. The other thing I wanted to say about William Friedkin is that he was pretty hard on his actors. I mean, Linda Blair, who played Reagan, had her back hurt when she was being, sat up and laid down and sat up and laid down. Also, the father that gives Karras his last rites at the end of the movie after he throws himself down the stairs, wasn't much, of an actor at that point. He'd done a few things, but he wasn't able to get to the point where he was crying while doing the last rites. And Friedkin, off camera, slaps the shit out of him, pushes him in front of the camera to do the scene, and you can see, go back and watch this, you can see him shaking as he's doing these last rites, and the tears starting to run down his face because he was just slapped by his director. Another thing that happened is Ellen Bernstein actually got hurt during this movie, and you can actually see it, it's used in the movie where Reagan, right after I think she turns her head around, or maybe in another scene. Anyway, she slaps her mother and off the shaking bed, and her mother goes flying back, and she lands on her back, and you can see her actually grab her back and yell out in pain. Now, I mean, just like this, here's the scene. I mean, Jesus, did you see that? Look, I don't agree with these methods, but man, they present a pretty, you know, I guess, effective way of making a movie. I mean, it really pulls the performance. He really pulls the performance out of his actors. Don't think I would necessarily agree with it, but that's what he did. Now, of course, I have to talk for a minute about the epic battle at the end where the two priests go in and actually do the exorcism, and it is truly epic. I mean, this thing, you know, all the vomiting, the spitting, the cursing, the stuff that this demon tries to do to defeat these priests are just harrowing and hard to watch. I mean, and it really gets under your skin. And I just loved every minute of it. I mean, it like I said, I watched it last week and it still affects me to this day. Okay, so there were my thoughts on The Exorcist from 1973, and I'm gonna grade this because it's still a review and still my thoughts. And my grade for this, I think it's one of the greatest scary movies, horror movies of all time, and also just a great movie in general. And I'm gonna give this movie a 5 drinks out of 5. I think there's not much to change about this. I couldn't find hardly anything that I had problems with, if at all. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was Drunk Recollections. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you want me to do more of these. I'm going to try to do one at least once a week, maybe pertaining to a movie coming up. Who knows? We'll see. But again, thanks everybody for joining me. Have a drink on me. And if you like this, please subscribe down at the bottom, share, like, do all those things. Check me out on Twitter and Facebook and my website. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.